Hello everyone, my name is Julio Terrazas. I will be presenting my strategic individual capstone project on the company I work for, FedEx. Quick introduction here and a little history on FedEx and the founder of FedEx and everything, but the important part is the growth and evolution of the company. FedEx has acquired 23 companies over its history, one of them being RPS, which is in Pittsburgh, and that became FedEx Ground in 2000 when it was rebranded. Um, but in April 5th, 2023, FedEx announced a consolidation plan to bring all the separated units together, including FedEx Express, FedEx Ground, and FedEx Services, to form just one corporation, which is going to be a huge change for the company. FedEx operates in the transportation and e-commerce industry on the sectors of package delivery, freight, and logistics. And the key players in the industry are UPS, Amazon, DHL, USPS, and FedEx. On this slide, I mentioned a brief history on deliveries from ancient times until now, but the important part is technology and information. Um, since UPS was formed in 1907, we've had huge advancements in technology, in transportation technology. So in just those 100 years, we went from cars to ships, planes, everything. We can take a package overnight from the US to China. But the important part here is information. I think that's where the competitive advantage will come. And right now, it's already very important for packages. I mean, the package is important, but information sometimes for the customer is even more important and travels faster than the package. So providing that information to the customer, it will add value to the customer experience and will give us a competitive advantage. Political factors have been a determinant element in the history of FedEx with both positive and negative outcomes. 1977 deregulation of air cargo, for example, FedEx lobbied and took a non-market strategy approach with a positive outcome. Um, FedEx Ground has an independent contracted workforce that has been targeted for unionization by the Teamsters for many, many years, costing FedEx Ground millions of dollars. But in a positive way, FedEx Ground has been modifying the operating agreement throughout the years to make it almost impossible for the Teamsters to unionize the FedEx Ground workforce. Also taking a non-market approach. Economic factors. What we see here is a graph with volume for FedEx Ground from 2016 to 2023. Years 2021 and 2022, we saw a spike in volume, and it was highly due to the COVID pandemic. So what that created was people were getting checks from the government and spending more money, creating more volume in the networks, and but at the same time, we had a little issue of getting people hired because the unemployment doubled and people were getting money from the government, so not really interested to go work unloading trailers. So anyway, when the pandemic ended, there was a bubble kind of like bursted and the volume went down. So revenues went down. So I think the strategy that FedEx needs to take here is already doing it by merging the companies and using resources more effectively. So this will help us use economies of scale, and so FedEx will be able to use FedEx ground resources and vice versa, and that will make us a more effective and efficient company. On this slide, I mentioned unionization movements as a social cultural factor for FedEx. FedEx is a union-free company, and recently there's been a lot of union activity with younger generations. It happened with Amazon and Starbucks. And I think a lot of the union activity happens because of poor management skills and broken relationships between management and employees. And I think that's what FedEx needs to do to remain union free, is to approach the newer generations differently. Newer generations don't respect the manager just because of the title. There's got to be a mutual respect relationship there. So I think better training, better selection for management will help FedEx mitigate this threat. FedEx needs to continue utilizing technology to innovate and remain relevant to the changing needs of the customer. QDM, quality driven management, that is a tool that it's a FedEx version of Six Sigma, continuous improvement, and we use it for almost everything. And so it's also used to innovate on technology. What you see on that picture, it's a robot loading a trailer, and it's being piloted by FedEx to continue innovating and improving. So that is something that FedEx continues to invest, and I think that's the right approach. Continue investing in innovation, technology, to remain relevant to the customer needs. Ecological factors. FedEx released a 3-part initiative to advance environmental stewardship. This was released on one of their earnings documents. So the first one is innovate operations, reducing environmental impact, taking action through research and development, and inspiring to act more sustainable. Legal factors. On this one, I mentioned the deregulation of air cargo of 1977 again, because once it became law, it affected FedEx and every carrier in the US. You can see in this graph how air cargo increased from 1975 and on drastically. And then on the litigation, so my recommendations there is to keep defending the independent contractor model, because that's FedEx Ground's backbone. And then, but to avoid them, have sound business relationship with independent service providers and remain compliant with local laws and regulations. Closest rivals. Historically, FedEx and UPS have been the number one, number two in the US, but in 2003, Amazon surpassed them both with 5.9 billion packages delivered in 2023. The 5 forces. Rivalry among existing competitors, number 5. I think this is the highest risk of revenue loss for FedEx, as we saw with Amazon gaining number 1 and entering the industry, although it had really high barriers for the industry. Amazon was able to enter through innovation and then take leadership. So I think rivalry among existing competitors is the highest risk for FedEx. Strategic objectives and financial data. FedEx released 6 long-term financial goals. Increase EPS by 10 to 15% per year, grow profitable revenue, achieve 10% operating margin, improve cash flows, increase return on income capital, and increase returns to shareholders. FedEx was only able to do and meet all these goals during the year of 2021, when during the pandemic, where there was more volume and an increase in volume and profit. 2022, not so good. The volume went a little down, or it was flat. But then in 2023, the volume went really down, and FedEx couldn't be profitable, and these goals could not be met. So I think that with stronger and more aggressive competition, volume will likely not get back to pandemic levels unless a similar event occurs, but in all normality, more volume is being shifted by more competition, such as Amazon, who entered as a leader in the industry. FedEx is currently focusing on cutting costs and improving innovation. I think these two practices are key to returning FedEx to profitability. Optimization and operations with better use of economies of scale will give FedEx the competitive advantage needed to return profits to shareholders. Based on our experience through the years, acquisitions have become our core competency. Fred Smith, founder of FedEx. FedEx delivers packages. That's the core competency. That's how they or we compete with UPS, Amazon. But acquisitions have been a very successful way for FedEx to grow. Here we see FedEx, TNT, RPS, ShopRunner. So I think acquisitions have transformed FedEx into what it is now and paved the way to merging all the operating units into one company. First, FedEx purchasing ShopRunner recently, which is an online shopping platform that will reduce the competitive gap in e-commerce with Amazon. But FedEx should not stop there. An innovation technological startup might be the right choice for FedEx to turn weakness into a strength in the future. FedEx primary activities are P&D operation, package sortation operations, linehaul and air operations, and sales. P&D support activities are human resources, FedEx security, accounting, finance, business development solutions, which is kind of like the HR for the contractor service providers or contractor drivers. Differentiation is the competitive strategy that FedEx is pursuing. FedEx offers superior service in transit times and information available to the customer. FedEx is not the lower cost option for the customer. Foreign markets. FedEx operates in 220 countries, and in 2016, FedEx purchased TNT Europe, which was rebranded to FedEx Express Europe, and gave FedEx a big competitive advantage in that area. Although a costly purchase that affected profit during that time, it allowed FedEx to gain a competitive advantage in the long run, especially making it stronger now in the merge to one FedEx. This slide shows FedEx current organizational structure, which will change in June 1, 2024. Everything will be under one company except for FedEx Freight, but everything else will be under Federal Express Corporation. This is FedEx leadership, and this is the structure that it will take under the new Federal Express Corporation in June 1, 2024. FedEx leadership, I think they have been taking the right strategy to merge the companies. As I mentioned before, the issue right now is more competition, very strong competition, and volume is just not disappearing, is going to the competition. And so that growth that FedEx had year over year that didn't happen in 2023 and was very flat in 2022 was due to just having more competition and having Amazon that is really good at innovating and got to that point doing a lot of innovation and technology. So I think that the strategy that FedEx should take is keep investing and training its people on innovation, releasing products that are going to make the customer experience a lot better, and overall reducing cost. That's the only way that I believe FedEx will be able to continue being one of the leaders and maybe even taking the leadership back from FedEx and UPS. But cutting cost has to be there, and innovation has to be a priority for FedEx to remain competitive.